Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Greenwald cannot see the link between the Atlanta spa shootings, where a white man killed 8 Asian women, and white supremacy. I want us to take a look at what he had to say on Twitter before we set the record straight. The first thing he said on Twitter was the following quote: "Has anyone provided an iota of evidence that what is driving this horrific surge of anti-Asian violence is, quote, white supremacist domestic terror? That would require data showing who is primarily perpetrating the violence and with what motive. Where is that?" Now, he went ahead and dunked on liberals for speaking out against his ridiculous tweets. And this is what he shared. He said, quote, "Please look at how stupid and lowly so many liberals are now. If you ask for evidence to support sweeping but dubious claims about the cause of anti-Asian violence, they won't answer. Their brains won't allow that. Instead, they'll call you a racist. It's all they know how to do." So at that point, the journalist Michael Harriot from theroot.com, he jumped in to set the record straight for Glenn Greenwald, and this is what he said on Twitter, quote, "The research revealed nearly 3,800 incidents were reported over the course of roughly a year during the pandemic. It's a significantly higher number than last year's count of about 2,800 hate crimes nationwide over the span of 5 months." He went on to say, "Also, every journalist will tell you that the reason evidence is so scant is because the pandemic is barely a year old and most law enforcement agencies haven't compiled and released their annual crime statistics yet. This knows that." Now, before we go on any further, Jake, I want to jump in. I want to get you in here on this conversation because this is a market shift. From someone I used to consider friendly as well as a colleague in this space representing the left and progressivism. But it looks as though Glenn is finding colleagues somewhere else these days.
Yeah. So Professor Lessig at Harvard, when talking about corruption in politics, used a great phrase: lean to the green. That's what the politicians do, right? And unfortunately, in the new media, some folks are finding it irresistible to lean towards a certain direction. It doesn't mean that in that case it has to be financial. It could be that it's just leaning towards attention. So look, I know how Fox News works, and I've been approached by shows there. And the number one thing they ask you to do is not disagree with the host. So if they bring you on, they only bring you on to agree. Unless it's a structured debate, those are different, okay? But a guy like Tucker Carlson brings you on, and they kind of groom you. And are you okay with only agreeing with them? So that is the implicit deal that Glenn has made. Look, he can say, "No, I didn't. I never said that," etc. Really, you're constantly debating Tucker? No, when I see you on Tucker Carlson, you're only agreeing with him. So you're being used for a specific purpose, and yes, you're getting more attention, but it ain't worth it, brother. And so Glenn Greenwald is a guy I deeply respected and has done great work, and that's still the case. And so the fact that he's gone in this direction does not erase that past work. Now, having said that, he is, in my opinion, at this point, partly seeking that attention and partly so obsessed with being contrarian that it is to the detriment of seeking truth. Because if you're constantly trying to be contrarian, well, by definition, your priority is to stand out by being different rather than stand out by serving truth.
Yeah.
And so it will lead you to, if we're being super generous, making mistakes like this. If we're not being generous, it's not a mistake and it's intentional. Now, Michael Harriot has a really compelling point here on whether it's intentional or not. You couldn't do a simple Google search to see that anti-Asian crime has gone up by 150% last year. And as other hate crimes have decreased, that one has gone up. And you think it might have, and you're sure that it has nothing to do with anti-Asian bigotry that is being pushed politically nonstop, including on channels that you're on 24/7, okay? So the second layer of that observation by Michael, which is so great, is, wait, why make that assumption? Not only are you not Googling it and you're not looking it up and you're coming in fact-free while accusing others of not having facts, ironic to begin with, but the second part of it is, why assume the forces of bigotry and racism are innocent if you have no facts, right? And so at a minimum, you can say, look, we don't know, but I can see that the guy drove 27 miles to go attack more Asian places. And I can see why that would be a question that was being asked as to his motive. Maybe I haven't concluded it yet, but that seems like pretty overwhelming evidence. Instead, it appears that you were concluding the opposite. It is a curious place to start a debate we didn't even need to have. Yeah. But you needed the attention, so you forced a debate by protecting the people that you know are now craving your content.
And the thing that really bothers me about this is the casual disregard for the lives that were taken in exchange for defending people from even the accusation of white supremacy, as if murder is far less egregious than the accusation of white supremacy. And there's one thing that I said on my show this morning: when Glenn wants to see the evidence of racism and white supremacy, the data from this, the data's in the morgue. Like the bodies are there. The bodies of Asian and Asian American women are there, and he expressly targeted them. And for him to come out on this side of the issue, whether it be for attention, whether it be for just the sake of contrarianism, I also think it's because he has slowly but surely made his number one issue to be against cancel culture. Again, as if cancel culture is far more egregious than murder. But now back to Michael Harriot's point, it's true that law enforcement agencies did not release stats for 2020 yet, but here's some data that we're gonna put on your screen that came from the pre-pandemic era. And it shows that the rate of violence attacked by white people are almost 7 times higher in comparison to the number of violent crimes by other ethnicities. And we've seen, Cenk, that it has been reported that white supremacist right-wing terrorism is one of the most significant threats to life in this country. I mean, the evidence and the trend is there. And most of all, you said it, Fox News, they are part and parcel of spreading this anti-Asian bigotry that we've seen across this country. And I think perhaps maybe he is doing this on behalf of Tucker Carlson, his friend, whose show he likes to go on as often as he can.
Yeah, and look, at this point, Tucker Carlson are constantly talking about how immigrants are dirty and the country's overcrowded, and they bring disease and crime. This is textbook racism, textbook. Glenn, you can't tell that? Look, I had an exchange that I've talked about in the postgame with Tucker Carlson backstage before we debated at Politicon. It was perfectly cordial. Our debate was perfectly cordial. Can you agree with Tucker Carlson that we shouldn't have more wars? Yes, we can agree on that. And so I gave him every benefit of the doubt. But how many times is he gonna go on air and talk about how dirty and unacceptable immigrants are and brown people are before you begin to realize maybe he's a white supremacist and I shouldn't be helping white supremacists? Okay, look, apparently Glenn can't see that, Jimmy can't see that. They're blinded by whatever they're blinded by. Attention, I gotta have it, I gotta be contrarian, I gotta agree with the right wing, they'll put me on air. Okay, they're gonna get super hurt by that. They're gonna have their feelings are gonna rise up and they're gonna say, and congratulations, Glenn, then you'll get to be the victim. And oh my God, just like the right wing, you'll be ecstatic. Can you believe what they said about me? But the good news with me, as everybody knows, is I don't believe in cancel culture. So Glenn can say whatever he wants. Chip Roy can say whatever Tucker can say whatever they want. I get to say something back, and I'm saying it right now. And if it hurts your feelings, I don't give a damn at all. It's called speech, and I know you're in favor of it. And so don't go on Tucker Carlson and pretend you don't know Tucker Carlson's racist. Please don't do that. Don't write this message when everybody's hurting and saying like, well, I don't know that it's white supremacist domestic terror. That's what Glenn said. Oh golly gee, I mean, I don't like all of this is sprouting around me and the crime is up and the guy said it's China. I don't know where it came from. I'm gonna assume it isn't, okay? And so that is a weird assumption to have. And second of all, Glenn, are you so unsophisticated that you think, hey, I see that chart that Ben put up and black people attack Asians too. And I'm gonna point that out. You're unsophisticated enough to not know the context? Okay, number one, you got to layer in socioeconomic conditions. If you say you don't have to, that is a position that is anti-intellectual and buttresses racism for no reason, okay? So, but secondly, you think black people can't hear Trump either? You think you can't hear the constant message of it's the Chinese, it's the Chinese, it's their fault, it's their fault. And by the way, what do the rich do? In this country, it happens to be rich white right-wingers. They set us against one another. Hey, black folks, you be mad at the Jews. The Jews are the ones that have the power. All of a sudden they're mad, right? Hey, you don't have enough white guy in West Virginia or black guy in Oakland. Maybe it's the Chinese, it's the Chinese, it's the Jews. And then next, there's attacks on synagogues, there's attacks on Chinese. It's called stochastic terrorism. You don't know that concept, Glenn? You know that concept. But hey, congratulations, by saying outrageous things in the middle of people's pain, you got a lot of attention. Mission accomplished.
In the middle of everyone's pain, right? I got to let that one go because that drives a rage and a fury in me because he wants to put the emphasis on protecting white supremacists or people from the accusation of white supremacy before he even gave a moment's consideration for the families who are now trying to figure out how they're going to bury their family members during a pandemic. Good job, Glenn. But as Michael Harriot points out, Greenwald's rhetoric appeases his newfound fans. I want to read this quote, this tweet from Michael Harriot. He said, also notice how Glenn didn't say, I haven't seen any data, therefore I believe all the journalists, cops, and actual Asian Americans say. No, he's like, F all that, I need white people to verify this for me. And I wanna bring up the tweet that Michael Harriot is referring to. It's a tweet that was liked by, that was stated by Glenn Greenwald, but it was liked by a very proud white supremacist. He has no shame about his white supremacy, Nicholas J. Fuentes. And the tweet said, has anyone provided an iota evidence? The same one that we read, but is liked by an aspiring and upcoming, rising through the ranks conservative that is a very loud and proud white supremacist. And perhaps that is the audience he's more concerned about appealing to than the humanity of the 8 people who lost their lives this week.
The last thing I'll say is, what's part of cancel culture? Murder.
Facts.
And so he canceled the lives of those 8 people, but you couldn't find it in your heart to find sympathy for the people who had been canceled, had their lives canceled. Instead, you found sympathy for the white supremacists as people wondered if they had some culpability in this murder.
Yeah.
Glenn, I'm just asking you to look at your priorities one more time and see if you could find it in your heart in your mind to actually open up to the possibility that maybe not everyone is wrong at all times, and that you are not a champion simply for disagreeing with everyone. That maybe the pursuit of truth is more important than the pursuit of attention through disagreement.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.